What happens when America's sweetheart walks into a friendly TV studio and realizes too late it's a setup? In just minutes, Dolly Parton went from smiling guest to target of a brutal on-air attack. And then she flipped the entire room with one calm counterstrike, triggered a public meltdown, and forced Joy Behar to walk off live television, leaving the studio in stunned silence and the internet on fire. America's sweetheart walked into the View studio smiling, waving at the crowd, and doing what she had done her entire career, making people feel comfortable. As Dolly took her seat, her sequin jacket catching the studio lights, the hosts welcomed her with practiced smiles. Whoopi leaned in, warm as always. Sunny nodded politely. But across the table, Joy Behar didn't lean forward to greet her. She sat back, arms resting stiffly on the desk, eyes locked on Dolly with that familiar half-smile that regular viewers recognized. Joy didn't waste time easing into the conversation. The moment the welcome applause faded, she tilted her head slightly and gave Dolly a look that felt more like inspection than curiosity. "So, Dolly," she said, her tone sweet on the surface but sharp underneath, "you've been doing this for, what, 50 years now? Don't you ever think it's time to update the look? The big hair, the sparkly outfits, it's kind of stuck in the 70s, isn't it?" A few nervous laughs floated through the studio, but they didn't sound natural, they sounded forced. Dolly smiled politely, the way she always did, and answered calmly, "Well, honey, I've always believed if something makes people happy, there's no reason to throw it away." Her voice was warm, steady, and friendly. Joy leaned forward, sensing an opening. "But don't you think you're setting a bad example for young women?" she pressed. "All the makeup, the plastic surgery, the costumes, it sends the message that women have to look a certain way to be taken seriously." The room shifted. You could hear chairs creak as people adjusted in their seats. A few audience members murmured under their breath. Whoopi turned her head slowly toward Joy, her eyebrows lifting in a silent warning. This wasn't the direction the show was supposed to go. Dolly's smile tightened just a little. She kept her posture relaxed, hands folded neatly, but her gaze sharpened. "I've always told young women to be proud of who they are," she replied gently, however they choose to express that. Calm, controlled, no anger, yet the air felt heavier. Joy wasn't done. She smirked and added, "Come on, Dolly, you've built an entire brand around looking like a cartoon character. Big hair, big outfits, big personality. Isn't that a little shallow for someone who wants to be taken seriously as an artist?" The audience reacted instantly. A low wave of gasps and whispers rolled through the seats. Someone near the front shook their head. Whoopi opened her mouth as if to step in, then hesitated. Sarah glanced down at her notes, clearly uncomfortable. The table had gone quiet, but it wasn't peaceful, it was tense. Dolly took a slow breath. She didn't snap back, she didn't raise her voice. Instead, she tilted her head slightly and smiled again. But this time, it wasn't just kindness, there was something firmer behind it. "Joy, darling," she said softly, "I've never pretended to be anything other than exactly who I am." Her fingers tapped lightly against her knee once, then stopped. It was a small movement, easy to miss, but it signaled something important. She wasn't rattled, she was holding back. Joy saw it and pushed harder. Her voice grew sharper, faster. "Let's be honest, a lot of your success comes from playing into male fantasies. You're basically a Barbie doll with a guitar." The studio reacted instantly. This time the gasp was loud, heads turned. A few people in the audience whispered, "Oh wow." Even the crew behind the camera stiffened. Dolly didn't interrupt. She didn't roll her eyes. She simply sat there listening, letting Joy keep talking. For a few seconds after Joy's last comment, the studio was completely still. No laughter, no clapping, not even the usual background noise of people. Dolly finally looked straight at Joy and spoke softly, almost conversationally. "That's certainly an opinion you're allowed to have, honey," she said. Then she leaned forward just slightly, not aggressively, not dramatically, just enough to signal that this was no longer small talk. "But let me ask you something." The camera zoomed in on Joy's face. For the first time since the interview started, her confident expression flickered. "How many literacy programs have you started? How many children have you helped learn how to read? How many families have you helped keep food on the table? How many hospitals have you helped fund?" Each question landed heavier than the last. Joy opened her mouth to respond, then closed it again.
"That's not what we're talking about," she said weakly. Dolly didn't raise her voice. She didn't interrupt. She just kept going. "Oh, but it is exactly what we're talking about," replied she, her tone calm but firm. "Because while you've been sitting behind this desk criticizing how other women look, I've been out there trying to build something that actually helps people." The audience reacted instantly. A wave of murmurs rolled through the room. A few people nodded. Someone whispered, "She's right." Dolly straightened in her chair, her posture relaxed but powerful. "My imagination library has given away over 100 million books to children who didn't have access to them. I've created thousands of jobs, most of them for women. I've mentored young artists who had nothing but talent and hope, and yet none of that seems to matter to you. What matters is my hair." The studio erupted in scattered applause that quickly grew louder. You could see people clapping in the audience, some standing slightly in their seats. The hosts exchanged looks. Whoopi nodded slowly, clearly impressed. Sunny leaned back, eyes wide. Joy tried to regain control. "That's not fair," she said, her voice tighter now. But Dolly didn't let the momentum slip. She raised one hand gently, not aggressively, just enough to hold the floor. "You want to talk about feminism?" she asked. "Real feminism isn't about tearing other women down. It's about lifting them up. It's about judging people by their actions, not by how they dress or how they style their hair." Her words weren't loud, but they carried weight. The room felt different now. The power had shifted. Joy shifted in her chair, clearly irritated that the room had turned against her. She crossed her arms and leaned forward, trying to reclaim control. "You're twisting this into something it's not," she said, her voice sharper. "Now I'm talking about the message you send. When women see you dressed like that, acting sweet and playful, it tells them they have to look pretty and act cute to succeed. That's not empowering." A few people in the audience murmured again, unsure which side to lean toward. The tension tightened like a rope being pulled from both ends. Dolly didn't react emotionally. She didn't sigh or roll her eyes. She simply sat there listening, letting Joy keep talking, anchored in her steady calm and accepting no answer from Joy. "And there it is," Dolly said quietly. "When you can't win on facts, you reach for personal attacks." Her voice didn't rise, it didn't shake, it landed slow and heavy, like a judge delivering a verdict. Joy shook her head aggressively. "That's not true," she said, but her voice wobbled slightly. "You're just offended because someone finally called you out." Dolly tilted her head gently. "No, honey, I'm not offended. I'm disappointed. There's a difference." Joy's composure unraveled further. She started talking faster, cutting herself off mid-sentence. "You think you're better than everyone because people clap for you, because you sing sad songs and give away books. That doesn't make you special." Dolly leaned forward just enough to close the emotional distance between them. "I don't think I'm better than anyone," she said calmly, "but I do believe in treating people with basic respect. And right now, you're showing everyone exactly how little respect you have for someone who disagrees with you." The audience murmured again, louder this time. A few people shook their heads in disbelief. Others crossed their arms, clearly siding with Dolly. Joy's hands were visibly shaking now. She grabbed her mug, took a sip, then slammed it back onto the table harder than necessary. "You're twisting everything," she said, her voice cracking. "You always do this. You turn yourself into the victim." Dolly's expression didn't change. "No, honey, you turned this into a fight. I turned it into a conversation, and now that the conversation isn't going your way, you're losing control." That sentence hit the room like a drop in temperature. The studio went quiet again. Even the hosts stopped shifting in their seats. Joy pushed her chair back so hard it screeched against the studio floor. The sound cut through the silence like a knife. She stood up abruptly, breathing fast, her face flushed red with anger. "I'm not going to sit here and be talked down to," she snapped, ripping the microphone pack from her jacket. The small plastic clip popped loose with an audible click. The audience gasped all at once. A sharp wave of shock rolled through the studio. This wasn't a dramatic walk-off planned for ratings. This was real. "Joyce, sit down," Whoopi said firmly, reaching out a hand across the table. Her voice was calm but urgent. "We're live." But Joy didn't even look at her. She yanked the earpiece from her ear and dropped it on the desk like it was burning her skin. "No, I'm done. I'm not going to be lectured by someone who thinks being a living doll is some kind of achievement." Her words echoed through the room, raw and emotional. The camera hesitated for a half-second, then followed her as she stepped away from the set. The director switched to a moving shot. Weirs at home watched as Joy stormed across the stage, heels clicking sharply against the floor. The audience was frozen. Some of them had their hands over their mouths. Others leaned forward, unable to believe what they were seeing. This wasn't a dramatic walk-off planned for ratings. This was real. Dolly didn't move. She didn't chase after Joy. She didn't raise her voice. She simply sat there watching her walk away, hands folded calmly in her lap, her posture steady. When Joy reached the edge of the set, Dolly finally spoke. Her voice was quiet, almost gentle, but it cut through the chaos. "And there it is," she said softly, "the real Joy Behar." The words landed heavy. The audience reacted instantly, a mix of gasps, murmurs, and stunned silence. Joy froze for a split second at the edge of the stage, shoulders tense as if she wanted to turn back and fire one more insult, but nothing came. She shook her head, muttered something under her breath, and disappeared behind the curtain.